Well, happy Sunday and welcome to the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open May 2020. Jordan Kent here, and joining me, we've got two of the finest casters that you'll see for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. First, let me introduce the president and founding member of the Corrin Fan Club, joining us from Miami, Florida, Vicky Kitty. Vicky, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Really excited to see the character diversity that we're going to be exposed to now going on to these online open events.
And then also joining us from Maryland, where they know all about crab cakes, football, and Smash Brothers Ultimate as well, too. We've got my good friend here, Coney. Coney, I've never asked you before, who's your main?
I actually play banjo. I'm a banjo player. You would not believe the excitement I had when I had that character come onto the screen, because I remember being 12, 13 years old playing Banjo-Kazooie, and I played Smash 64. I was like, why isn't he in this game? I want him in this game. Put him in the game. And now he's finally in the game this far later. I play him and Wolf, a little bit of back and forth. So, yeah, I love that character.
Well, thank you for the trip down memory lane right there. Yeah. Let's talk about what's at stake here today. We've got our top 4 finalists from regions 7 and 8, so basically northeastern North America, that have prevailed over 3,000 competitors, and we're going to get a chance to see them take place. Let's take a look at the bracket here and explain some of the basic rules for you as we get set for this finals. It's double elimination. Every single match, as you know, is best of 3 when it comes to the games. The games will be 3 stocks, 7 minutes, no items. And as far as the stages go, we've got 8 stages selected. It'll be random selection. You see some guy taking on Ventus Will, and then Crunchbat versus Greninja. And what's at stake for our winner? Well, our winner today will be able to take home, or actually download, a digital download for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2 and the Splatoon 2 game. And oh, by the way, let's go ahead and fill up the Switch library and give you a digital download for the ARMS game. So a lot of great prizes to go along with some bragging rights as well, too. And Vicky, we were having this conversation before we got started, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has been out for over a year and a half now, basically. And one thing that really stands out is the fighter balance in this game and just how capable any given fighter is in any given match.
Well, with the amount of time that has passed already, I mean, we were just talking about this. There is no set best fighter in the game, and I think that's the beauty of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. With over 70 fighters to choose from, there's a plethora of very capable characters that could really come on top, and I think that's the uniqueness that goes behind the individuality that players decide to choose into going with these characters.
And Coney, you've called some top-level matches, and I want to ask you, what separates these high-level players from, say, someone like myself that's getting together with my buddies and some pizza, and I'm just trying to cheese some Falcon punches for a couple hours?
All of it comes down to resource management, I think. So what you'll find in a lot of sort of low to mid-level play are people who don't really manage their resources correctly, and they're not really thinking about it, right? You know, you're just trying to play a stock in between some bites of pizza or something, pour yourself some soda, something like that. But the issue is when you play at the top level, you're going to be playing against people that won't let you jump whenever you want. They won't let you get back onto the stage. If you're hanging on the ledge, you're not getting back on. So there are a lot of instances where you're just going to take 20, 30, 40, 50%, if not just losing your stock outright because you made one mistake. And at the top level of play, you just see just brutal punishes on the most innocuous errors that people make. So it's going to be really exciting seeing how the players play today.
All right, I will write that down. Manage resources.
Don't jump.
Tony.
Don't
Got
jump.
the note. Don't jump.
Never
All right,
jump.
well, let's go ahead and get started. It looks like we're ready to go for our first match, and we've got Ventus Will choosing Ness, rode all the way through the round of 32 with Ness unscathed, taking on some guy as Pichu. And Vicky, early on, what do you make about this matchup?
It's going to be quite interesting to see, because now that we have Pichu on the map, you know, in general, Ventus Will, she's a really good Ness player. She capitalizes off of those mistakes that Coney was mentioning. And when it comes to Ness jumping in that space that Ness likes to use, that fair that you're seeing Ventus Will actually drift back with, it could be difficult for Pichu to go in for an overextension. So that's why you're going to see some guy use the jolts to try to force Ventus Will to shield.
And Coney, you mentioned manage resources. Pichu going to take damage on a good amount of their attacks. And so you've got to be really careful as we see the first KO already. Some guy getting out to an early lead.
Yeah, Pichu is the quintessential glass cannon archetype. Obviously, she's going to do damage to herself whenever she throws out a Thunder Jolt, whenever she does any electric-based attack. And what that means is she's going to take damage, which makes it easier for her to KO. Also, the lightest character in the game by a considerable margin, but has insane KO potential, as you saw with that forward smash there. And now Ventus Will is reeling.
Also, really good recovery for Pichu, but Ventus Will finally getting some stage control here, Vicky.
Yeah, but managing to finally bring it back, Ventus Will only taking 48%. Some guys still in the game right here with these cross-ups. You see the back airs into the grab. In general, some guys just been putting a lot of pressure onto Ventus Will, and not really Ventus Will has been able to capitalize on the fact that he did lose that stock a little early, so he has to try to figure a way to bring it back here.
Both fighters down to 2 stocks at this point, but Ventus Will at 125, really trying to hang on, rack up some damage against some guy to try and even things out. But some guy, Ventus Will able to hang on, and we know that air dodge, Coney, something special for Ness.
Yeah, it's almost like a third jump for that character. They really knew that Ness's recovery would struggle a lot if they only had, the 2 jumps in the up B. So Ventus Will using that air dodge to great effect and holding onto the stock as long as possible. 150, but an unsafe dash attack will lose it as some guy takes the KO.
Some guy doing a fine job of punishing on the dash attack, and now some guy in control of 2 stocks to 1. Vicky, this is where you really try to find that separation if you're some guy. You want to pull ahead and take this first game.
Absolutely, but it's going to be difficult with that back throw, which you're going to have to be very careful with. As Coney mentioned, Pichu is that glass cannon character, being the lightest in the game, and just like that, that lead slowly slipped away from some guy, as Ventus Will only at 16%. Now this is a very even game here, Jordan.
That's a really good point you bring up. Ventus Will battling back, able to even things out with that quick KO on the final stock. And now it's all about some guy clearly living in the advantage state right now. Ventus Will looking for a way to land back on the stage safely. And this is where, if you're Ventus Will, you cannot afford an error here, Coney.
Yeah, I think Ventus Will really needs to try to hold center stage, sit under the platform. It seems like whenever she's getting caught at the ledge, some guy is extending his advantage as much as possible, hitting her again and again off stage. We're going to see the up throw into the Thunder. No, some guy going for the read, but can't land the forward smash, and this is going down to the wire. Ventus Will is going to have to play so careful here.
Ventus Will trying to hang on, connects with the up smash. Looking to get back up on stage. The charge smash attack can't get the read. Some guy going to get punished for that. And here's a chance for Ventus Will to turn the tables here, Vicky. And Ventus Will unable to lose this one based upon just how tenacious they are. And some guy, the bit of the gip there at the end, Vicky.
Yeah, when it comes to Pichu and Pikachu's recovery, it's those tricky angles that could really do it for yourself if you find yourself caught by the lip of the stage. And that's unfortunately what we just saw right there. In general, though, some guy, he was doing a really good job at capitalizing off of Ventus Will's mistakes. You saw that up smash out of shield when the cross up on the dash attack didn't really do it for some guy, for Ventus Will. But unfortunately, just not really able to make it back after using the recovery.
I think what it comes down to is you saw him, he was trying to avoid the yo-yo, right? I mean, Ventus Will was covering the ledge with that yo-yo, so it was right there, but I think some guy got a little bit too scared and unfortunately just messed up the angle just a bit on that recovery.
And you talked about it, Coney. Pichu being a glass cannon seemed like they were in full control that entire final stock with just a couple of slip-ups, and you saw how quickly Ventus Will was able to turn the tide of that match.
Yeah, just so much damage racked up so quickly. And even if you're not really getting hit by the KO blow, sometimes the fear of it can really make things scary. Like I was saying, with that yo-yo, it's like, okay, if I try to grab the ledge, that yo-yo is going to KO me at 60 or 70. So I need to mix up my recovery, maybe getting into his own head a little bit too much and messing up the angles on the up B. So a lot of different factors at play. This match is starting off a little bit slower than the last one. I think that's to Ventus Will's favor.
Yeah, honestly, you have to think about the momentum as well, just the respect being given between Pichu and Ness. We've talked about the fact that Pichu could essentially just blow up being the lightest character in the game, and that respect was given to Ventus Will, where some guy recognized, if I get back thrown at any more 20% higher, I could find myself losing that lead that I thought I had, so, evidently.
Yeah.
Ventus Will getting back up on stage, avoids the near KO, and going back to some guy in Pichu, Vicky, you have to really make sure you're accurate, because if you're missing with some of Pichu's attacks, you're taking unnecessary damage. And for a very light character, in fact, the lightest character, you can't afford to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the same situation that Coney was talking about set up. Successfully so. He couldn't really get above the ledge since he was below the stage there. We saw like he tried to go for the high recovery in that last game, and it didn't really work out in his favor. But here instead, he forcibly was caught with that yo-yo hitbox that lingers solo below the stage.
A couple of grabs coming out from Pichu, chaining into some down throw combos, and that's what we love about Pichu as a player, as a fighter here, Coney, is the combo ability. If you're able to get in when neutral, you've got a chance to rack up significant damage for the small little electric type.
Yeah, the character is just, this fighter is like a blender, just constantly hitting you over and over. Once you get hit by one up air, you're just in the vortex, you're getting schmixed up, and there's just no way down. And some guy is just using that to great effect. But Ventus Will with an excellent side magnet and a reversal of fortune there, as some guy already up to 73. That's the price you pay, though. I mean, you're playing a character who can get insane combos, crazy damage, but as soon as you're sort of locked out of the game, as Ventus Will is doing, it can be really tough to get back.
We see some guy referring to that down throw up air that has been the bread and butter in the second stock, but Ventus Will doing a great job, Vicky, of being able to hit the small hurt box for some guy in Pichu, because that's pretty tricky to overcome when you're taking on this fighter.
Yeah, although, you know, Ness also being a short character himself, of course, not as short as Pichu, but in general, still managing to capitalize off of some guy jumping into Ventus Will's space, being able to shut him down with the fares. But the short lead that Ventus Will did have, she's slowly having it slip away, as some guy is still managing to make the comeback with this back air, now sending Ventus Will off stage.
Ooh. Oh, the ledge trapping ability of some guy, as Ventus Will trying to get back up on stage, and that is just a beautiful read right there, Cody.
Yeah, that was just beautiful covering. I mean, the ledge covering was beyond belief there. You could see him just trying to stop Ventus Will from getting back. Ventus Will looking a little shook back and forth, trying to hit that tech over and over, hitting the air dodge off stage, but eventually some guy was able to take that stock.
Some guy up 2-1 on the stock advantage, but Pichu at 134. All you have to do is sneeze, and that'll be a KO at that point. Ventus Will trying to hang on, has the 1-0 lead. Comeback here would win the match. Some guy trying to force a game 3. And some guy doing a great job here, Vicky, of hanging on even with that high percentage.
Yeah, playing extremely safe, especially with the ledge play that he's been able to capitalize with the forward tilt too, catching him by the ledge. Now just kind of focusing on figuring out a way to get into the opening here, not trying to overextend. You can see the slow pacement just coming in from some guy. That back air isn't going to do it, but especially putting in that pressure that Ventus Will does not want to be in at 100%.
And will this be the KO? It is, and some guy battles back to tie things up 1-1. And this is one of those things we were talking about prior to this, Coney. Everyone that made it to these finals steamrolled through the round of 32. In fact, there was only one game drop. These 4 players want to combine 32-1 in the round of 32. So now you're going to have to face a little adversity. When you get to that competitive mindset, how do you handle when things don't go your way? That'll show us a lot as we make our way through these finals.
Yeah, you were asking before what sort of can separate, you know, the mid-level play to the high-level play, and so much of it is that mentality, taking the loss on the chin and just not letting it affect you, not letting it rattle you, realizing where there are areas for improvement. They're on the same stage again here on Pokemon Stadium 2. So Ventus Will doesn't have to worry too much about the stage changing things, but this is a best of 3, so this is going to be her last chance to put her foot in this game. We'll see if she can do it. I think the main thing she has to do, though, is get off the ledge. Some guy is doing an excellent job of just racking up so much damage on the sides of the stage. Ventus Will needs to stay in that little Pokeball in the center.
Yeah, it's such a good point about Nestor, Vicky. Very difficult to get out of that disadvantaged state and recover, because you have a bit of an unorthodox recover, having to use that air dodge most of the time to quickly get back on the ledge. And we've seen some guy just really read Ventus Will as a book so far.
Yeah, he honestly, some guys just been capitalizing over the fact that Ventus Will has not been able to land whatsoever. You know, Ness having that big noggin also prevents him from being able to land safely. Once he's in the air and he's above you, it could be a little tricky to try to land safely against a character as fast as Pichu.
And Ventus Will with Ness Some guy with Pichu, winner of this game, will move on, take the match, and advance in our bracket. Loser will drop to obviously the loser's bracket. It is double elimination, top 4 players in regions 7 and 8 as we get action started here. Both fighters still in that first stock. Nobody really taking advantage here, and it seems like for Ventus Will, you gotta maintain stage control against Pichu here because you can't get on these ledges like we've seen in the first couple of games here, Coney. That's where you've really struggled against Pichu.
Yeah, no question. You can tell that the pace has really slowed down. We're about to hit the 100-second mark on this first game, and no stock has been lost. And that's not for lack of trying. You saw some guy hit the down smash in the center stage, trying to go for these forward tilts, and eventually going to land into that back air from Ness. Now, Ventus was going to do everything she can to try to hold that stock, but she's going to eat a back air of her own, and it's a 2-stock game.
Yeah, quick stock trade-off right there. Both fighters down to their second stock. As we mentioned before, winner of this game will move on in our bracket. And Vicky, Ventus Will seems like they're finally starting to learn some of those safe approaches that some guys trying to throw out with Pichu. And that's part of this whole thing is reading and learning how to almost condition your opponent.
Absolutely. I mean, you see the few times when she actually uses the PK fire that you have some guy sometimes has to get stuck in shield, but at the same time, some guy is taking advantage of getting into close quarters of Ventus Will, whereas Ventus Will has been constantly trying to space out some guy, using the fares as a back off option to prevent some guy from approaching from right underneath them. But at the same time, you see right here, getting the cross up with the back air, taking advantage of the fact that Ventus Will was going to be on that top platform.
And it seems like, Coney, both fighters are really spacing each other out a little bit more than what we saw in the last couple of games. You're not seeing a ton of jabs leading into combos, and just as I say that, some guy able to send Ventus Will flying off the side of the stage, some guy barely able to recover, gets back onto the middle of the stage.
Yeah, some guy really went for it all there, gave up stage control in the ledge trap to try to go off stage against Ventus Will, and that's really one of the things that Ness can really sort of exploit online more than offline, is trying to get off stage and punish Ness for that recovery is such a tight window that it can be super difficult to do online, and you saw some guy kind of pay the price for it. He actually gave up stage control, and it might have led to the KO. Excellent drag down up air into the grab, and now Ventus Will kind of running away with things. Only at 103, so he's not too much in the danger zone. Some guys gotta figure something out quickly.
And you bring up a really good point, Coney. That was a terrific sequence by Ventus Will. You get some guy to nearly 30%. You've got a 1-stock lead. Now, Vicky, this is where you just got to play smart. You want to maintain your aggressiveness, but you don't want to get out of control looking for that KO, leaving yourself vulnerable.
Yeah, now that some guy's at 70% and Ventus Will has the lead, it's going to be a lot trickier to be as aggressive as some guy has been playing. Now Ventus Will is going to be able to capitalize on the fact that some guy has to slow down that gameplay. It's looking a little tricky now by the ledge, and losing that advantage as Pichu is also dire because of the fact that Pichu inflicts damage upon himself. The fact that he's a really light character, and the yo-yo reaching again underneath the stage is going to take care of some guy, and Ventus Will takes it over some guy.
Ventus Will, the incredible read with the down smash on the side of the stage there. And Ventus Will, who, Coney, didn't lose a single game in the round of 32, takes that loss from some guy and able to respond and adapt. And that's what you continue to talk about. The top level players will see maybe a weakness in a match, weakness in a game, figure out what they need to change, and then go ahead, apply it, and become successful because of that.
Yeah, what seemed to be happening in that set is that some guy was just coming out, just guns blazing, just arms swinging, just constant attacks, constant smash attacks, constant back airs, just approaching back airs, not really considering his own safety all that much. And Ventus Will, I think, was sort of taken aback a little bit, had to step back, inhale, exhale, and take a deep breath. And I think you really saw that happen in the third and final game, where Ventus Will wasn't jumping into the attacks. She was just shielding and waiting for the down smash to be over. She was using the forward air to be that sort of disjoint to kind of keep Pichu out. And I think just that slower pace really sort of helped her get that win, as some guy never really hit the brakes, and I think he just ended up crashing it there at the end.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket and see how things advanced after our very first match in this finals double elimination bracket. Ventus Will from Canada advancing on to the next round of the winners final. Some guy will head down to the losers semifinal, which brings up our next matchup, Crunchbat taking on Greninja. And this is going to be an exciting matchup here because, Vicky, we saw Greninja primarily use Cloud all through the round of 32. However, did make a switch to Joker when they faced an Inkling character. And then Crunchbet, as we know, has been just a very solid Mewtwo player. And so, once again, the fighter diversity, you have to know about the fighter you main, obviously, but then also knowing the different matchups, and a lot of studying and preparation goes into preparing for your next match.
And Ninja has gotten all that experience too. Just seeing that Ninja is mostly a Wi-Fi warrior, so they have that experience in the pocket where they're able to utilize Cloud's utility, where Cloud isn't as easily gimbable online when it comes to fighting in these Wi-Fi matches than offline. So he's going to be able to capitalize off of that when it comes into fighting against a character like Mewtwo, where Mewtwo's tail is a hurt box, and Mewtwo, not the heaviest character in the world, actually one of the lightest. So it's going to be pretty dire when it comes to Mewtwo also landing against a character like Cloud when he has stage advantage and that really big Buster Sword.
All right, let's get you set for the next winners bracket match here as we get set to figure out who our grand final winner will be here eventually. Don't forget, the winner of this entire double elimination round will get a digital download code for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2, the Splatoon 2 game, and ARMS game. Let's see who we have here between Crunchbat and Greninja. And, Vicky bringing up a good point here, Coney. Yes, you've got your hitboxes as a character, and some are disjointed, some are short. But then the hurt boxes are different. You have to factor in weight and size. And Mewtwo with that tail, that's like getting your carry-on baggage swiped in the airport and taking damage for it.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem fair in some ways. That we were just talking about glass cannons, and I hate to reiterate the same point, but Mewtwo is very much sort of the same kind of character in that incredibly large, so huge hurt box, but very light at the same time. And what that means is you can just kind of space moves and throw out these moves. And if Mewtwo gets clipped by them, whereas one character taking 12, 13%, that might be, maybe a 10th or a 13th, a 15th of their stock. For Mewtwo, it's like a fifth, like it's a way bigger punish. So you have to be a lot more careful with Mewtwo. And with that tail, man, just getting nicked by that tail. If you get grabbed that way, if you get hit that way, especially if you're fighting Cloud, or a character like that, it can be very difficult because that character just wants to throw out hitboxes to sort of space you out, and there's no way in on that if you're playing a huge character like Mewtwo. It's going to take some crafty play here from Crunchbat, I think.
And that's a really good point you bring up, Coney, because Vicky, a lot of times you're going to have your main, but you might realize it's just not a good matchup. And with so many fighters, every fighter's going to have a weakness and struggle against somebody else potentially. But this is when those counter picks come into play. And for most of our finalists here, we didn't see them change to a counter pick too often. But now that you're facing the best of the best, you've steamrolled the competition. You haven't lost a game coming to this point. Now you're facing some folks that are in the same boat as you. You might have to make that fighter swap if you're seeing that you find yourself in a bad matchup.
Yeah, it seems like Crunchbat honestly stuck with the solo Mewtwo. So the fact that Crunchbat has been able to get this far playing against a glass cannon like Mewtwo, it shows that this guy's probably a specialist with his character. So he's going to have to readapt around a character like Cloud. We did see actually Greninja use Joker at one point, but I don't think we're going to have a switch up in the matchup, at least from Greninja's point of view. Oh, actually, he made me eat my words. He actually started the game with Joker here. So we're going to be getting a feel. Maybe Greninja actually switching the next game, but opting to start off the set first, testing out the waters with Joker.
I'm surprised, honestly, for all the reasons that you were just saying. I feel like Joker, great character, obviously, but I feel like not tailor-made for this like his other character would be. But we'll see how he performs here as Crunchbat, starting off with not a great opening, but he's able to answer back with just 2 moves. Again, it's that glass cannon, man. Mewtwo, when he hits you, he hits hard.
And it's such a good point you make about the switch to Joker. You figure with Cloud, you've got some large disjointed hitboxes coming out, but Joker, you never know. You want to bring Arsene to the battle and go toe-to-toe with Mewtwo, but right now it's pretty even. Both fighters fresh as a daisy on their first stock, and a nice trading blow, but here comes Arsene out. And when you're facing Arsene here, Vicky, and you're Mewtwo, you have to change your game plan for about the next 30 seconds.
Honestly, the same situation that Mewtwo would have faced against Cloud and just the large hitboxes that Cloud has, now the same would persist with Arsene, where you have to be really careful with that back air. You have to get a little aggressive because you want Arsene to be off the board, and the more you hit Joker, that would be the case. But here, you essentially have Greninja doing a really good job at keeping it even with Crunchbat, and Crunchbat not trying to overextend himself, respecting Arsene more than anything.
Both fighters near 100%. Oh, the read gonna go ahead and get hit. the confusion, and Mewtwo sets up the smash attack, and Crunchbat taking the first stock here, Coney.
An incredible confusion there to stop Greninja in his tracks. Crunchbat taking the first stock and running away with it. Arsene is back, but it doesn't matter. Another confusion to levy him off. And now he's going to try to hit him with this back air. Can't quite land it. Crunchbat in a bad position. But the back throw might seal it, not quite. And now part of me is wondering, maybe we should have seen the cloud.
I definitely agree with you there, Cody.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just looking like a struggle. Oh, we know tech and getting that back air, clipping Greninja by the ledge. Unfortunate, but with this significant lead here, Jordan, now it's going to be difficult for Greninja to even play patiently to try to bring it back, because now Crunchbat has essentially the green light to go all in.
And as you mentioned, Crunchbat has got some terrific spacing and defensive tools. We've seen using that disable and confusion to really mitigate a lot of the aggressiveness coming out from Greninja. And Crunchbat putting on a display, an absolute clinic here with Mewtwo in this first game, Coney.
Be a 3-stock if he could just get this one last game. Greninja has no Arsene on deck, which is just going to make things harder and harder. Tries to get the read into the up smash. Can't quite land it. Greninja taking one, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to turn this one around. This one might just be in the books.
Yeah, it's a steep slope to climb if you're Greninja right now, but you never say never. You got a light floaty character in Mewtwo, but you've seen Greninja just hasn't had a ton of success getting in close, applying pressure, and racking up those combos that Joker's so well known for. It's been all Mewtwo mitigating a lot of those advances coming in, and Mewtwo really dictating the pace of play of this match, Vicky.
Yeah, you can't count out Mewtwo just yet. Sorry, you can't count out Greninja just yet, just because of the fact that Mewtwo is that light character, but with the down air spike, catching Crunchbat off guard. And although there is 160% on the board, this is still quite a steep here for Greninja to try to bring it back. But again, not impossible. Now being able to use this confusion to actually catch Greninja off guard whenever he is trying to go for a jump in here. But you see him slowly coming back.
This would be amazing if he could pull it off. One of the scariest things about Mewtwo is not only can they KO you with strong moves, but oh, no way! No way! No way! Oh! Catch KO Greninja brought it all the way back, staying at above 100% all 3 stocks. That was unreal.
Greninja not joking around with Joker. An unbelievable comeback, was staring at triple percentage for 2 of those stocks, comes back down 3-1. And as Coney said, Vicky, Mewtwo is a glass cannon. You can apply a lot of damage, but you better make sure you are playing a strong defensive game, because you can see how quickly, to quote the fine words of Michael Scott, how the turns have tabled.
Great show. But that was just incredible showing of being able to take advantage of what Mewtwo lacks as a character. And now when you kind of feel like you have that green light to get aggressive because you have the lead, and you kind of lose control and you're not winning those trades, especially around the end where rage is still a factor here in Ultimate and it's slowly taking away from you, you have to be really careful, especially by the ledge, as a big character like Mewtwo, who will be susceptible to getting hit by those hard-hitting moves and losing that stock relatively early, like we saw in the last match with Pichu.
And Coney, I thought that Greninja did a really fine job with Arsene in that second stock. I think that really helped Greninja get back into that match against Crunchbat, because first time Arsene came out, you got to really make the best use of Arsene. Joker's a terrific fighter without Arsene. We get that. But with Arsene, that's really what separates Joker from a lot of other fighters in this game, and why, if you're watching some really top-level tournaments, some people love Joker as a character, and you have to be judicious with that. Versus Mewtwo, we saw Mewtwo get in that disadvantage state, and that's a really tough area for Mewtwo to get out of.
Yeah, and just because so much of the percent that you tack on is just permanent for Mewtwo, because he's going to get KO'd so much earlier. And Greninja just playing out of his mind in that last game. I don't want to stick on it too long, but I cannot overstate. He had no Arsene on the second stock. He's fighting Mewtwo, who's a character who also has KO throws. Let's keep that in mind. It's not like he had to just avoid attacks. He also had to avoid getting grabbed those entire 3 stocks. So Greninja just playing out of his mind in that game. We'll see if he can extend it. Right now, a little bit more even paced on this game 2 on Yoshi's Story.
And it's a smaller stage as well too, Vicky, and you wonder how that'll impact things, because Joker, being a rushdown character, going ahead and getting that first KO, taking that first stock in this one, doesn't have to navigate as much space. And if you're Mewtwo, you don't have a lot of room to run.
Yeah, that's actually why we've been seeing Crunchback go for the B reverse on the Shadow Ball, so that way he could extend his movement, get a little bit of momentum in the air, but almost clipping him right there with the Nair. Being able to come back, though, might as well. It's a little difficult. This is where Mewtwo, I feel like, struggles when it just comes to getting back from the ledge.
And such a good point. Greninja applying all sorts of pressure on Crunchbat at this point, and this is how you really want to utilize Joker here, Coney. Be aggressive, build up that Arsa meter, never let a zoning character like Mewtwo get comfortable and get you off the stage.
Yeah, beautiful forward air there, that Shadow Claw from Crunchbat. And we were sort of wondering why Greninja would go Joker instead of Cloud, but I think it's a different sort of game plan that's really paying off for him. So whereas Cloud wants to keep you out, and he wants to throw out those disjointed aerials and make sure Mewtwo doesn't get in, Joker is more of that sort of chic Greninja sort of archetype where they want to get in at the right times. They use their mobility to land a hit when you're vulnerable and then sort of rack up damage from there. And I feel like he's really been making the most of that. And then Arsene just is so punishing as you see Crunchbat struggling to get back to the stage. He does get stage control, but Greninja is just on it.
Crunchbat trying to battle back. Oh, misses though! On the confusion, can't capitalize. That might be a turning point in this match here, Vicky.
Yeah, unfortunately, whiffing that forward smash, that was the perfect opportunity for him to take advantage of the fact that Greninja was unable to do much in that situation. But now with only one stock, Crunchbat losing the ability to try to keep this match even. Again, we've seen time and time again these fighters being able to bring it back, but now Crunchbat in the backseat having to come back from the situation.
And it's an interesting point. Greninja now in control. Here comes Crunchbat, able to punish with that forward smash. Connects on that one. We'll give you a 1 for 2. That'll still work out in this match.
Yeah, beautiful confusion there, and now we're going to see as much damage as possible. It's a one-stock game between these two, so it's anyone's round. Crunchbat has to sort of forget about what happened to him last game, forget about everything except the moment right here. Arsene is here, so it's going to make things a little bit difficult. Has to watch himself getting back on stage, especially after how that first game ended. He's just in such danger when he's at the ledge.
And what we see here, Vicky, is Crunchbat really utilizing shield off stage, and that will do it. Greninja, after battling back in the very first game, full control in the second game, doesn't give Crunchbat the chance to create a comeback, and it will be Greninja moving on, going with Joker versus Cloud. And Coney, I thought you brought up some really good points. The fact that instead of using those disjointed aerials with Cloud, you're going to find your opportunities to rush in when you're playing as Joker, and you really have to, once again, resource manage it, manage Arsene, and we saw really Greninja have a much more manageable game, that second game, and really be effective against Mewtwo, and Mewtwo trying to use a lot of those confusions and disables to slow things down.
Yeah, it seemed like Greninja was much more comfortable playing the game that way, the way that he was just sort of maneuvering in and out, getting around Mewtwo's hitboxes with Joker's high mobility. Seemed like a different sort of game plan. And there at the end, you saw Crunchbat trying to get to the ledge, but slightly mistiming. And it's those slight execution errors that can cost you stocks, cost you games, and cost you sets in that instance where he just tried to get the ledge, floated a little bit too high, Greninja capitalizing with that forward smash and taking the set.
Yeah, essentially to follow up from what Coney had said at the very beginning, where, these pro players, they capitalize off of your mistakes. And that's essentially what we saw right there from the high recovery. You saw that, unfortunately for Crunchbat, he was unable to get to the ledge for that invincibility, and he essentially paid the price for it.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket as we get done with our second match in the winners bracket as well, too. Advancing on to the next winners final will be Ventus Will taking on Greninja, and you'll see some guy versus Crunchbat. They'll face off in the loser semifinal, but we're going to go ahead and advance to the winners final next to figure out who will have their first spot in the grand finals. It'll be Ventus Will taking on Greninja. We saw Greninja utilize that Joker so well, but then Ventus Will with Ness. And you start to look at this matchup here, Coney, and what comes to mind when you're seeing Ness taking on Joker here?
You know, I don't want to eat my words again, but I feel like I think it might be Cloud. I really do, because Cloud against Ness is it's difficult. Ness obviously wanting to sort of keep people out with that forward air, so sort of push people out of the way and be able to space it out. But Cloud just having that sword, Ness does struggle against sword characters in a lot of instances. So we'll see if he opts to go for that. However, one of the things to keep in mind is, as we saw in the first set with Ventus Will, She likes using that yo-yo off stage, and Cloud can have a really tough time recovering if they don't snap to ledge perfectly. That yo-yo is going to cut them off every time. So maybe I would not be surprised if Greninja actually opts for the Joker. But I think sort of in the moment-to-moment gameplay on stage in the neutral, Cloud would be beneficial. It really comes down to player preference. As far as I know, Ventus will using Ness the entire tournament, so she's going to stick on that. So we'll have to see. I'm really excited.
And Vicky, are there any similarities between Ness and Mewtwo? Because if you are Greninja, do you basically stick with the same strategy if you're looking at your matchups and realizing, okay, my opponent's choosing a fighter where there really isn't too big of a difference in the way that they might play? What are your thoughts on that Ness versus Mewtwo comparison?
Perhaps Greninja understanding that Ness likes to approach in the air a lot. You see a lot of the fairs coming out from Greninja in general. Ness likes to approach with fair, and he may be essentially backing down, being as patient as we saw within the last game, where he was even able to bring it back from a 3-stock disadvantage. I think we're going to be seeing a more slow-paced game, at least from Greninja's side of things. From Ventus Will, I think Ventus Will, she's going to have to essentially capitalize off of the fact that if Greninja goes Cloud, as Coney was saying, take advantage of Cloud's biggest disadvantage state, and that is being off stage.
And Coney, we talk about the match within the match, how you're starting to learn about what your opponent's going to do. And you hear that term conditioning thrown out. And for some folks that are really starting to get into the competitive scene, what does it mean to condition your opponent throughout a match?
Well, it really comes down to your character choice. So there's certain characters who really want to force you to do things like shield. So what they'll do is they'll just use a lot of smash attacks. They'll use a lot of really strong moves that you want to sort of put your block up for. And then once you start doing that, they'll lead into grabs. And then the grabs may actually do more damage than the smash attacks. And you may not even realize it. Sometimes what people do is they'll intentionally leave things open at the ledge. So let's say I've got somebody at the ledge and then I'm clearly not covering normal get up. Eventually somebody's gonna just stand up into something, and they may stand up right into a forward smash. And I'm interested to see if Greninja goes for something like that. I think we saw it in the last match against Crunchbat with that forward smash on the Mewtwo, but it looks like he's opting for Cloud here on Yoshi's Island.
You know, Coney, I was going to credit you for looking into the crystal ball. Normally when it's cloudy, you don't have a good say on things, but you see Cloud here, and early on, it's Greninja with a slight advantage over Ventus Will. Going as Ness, we saw Ventus Will with Ness really take care of business against some guy earlier on, and a small, light character in Pichu they faced, and now you've got a little bit more of a target in Cloud. But Vicky, with Cloud, it's all about how you utilize limit when you get that chance to release one of those powerful special attacks.
Yeah, absolutely. You have the limit online right now, and we had seen before where he was able to use that cross slash to essentially anti-air Ventus Will, and I think we're going to be seeing that in the matchup in general, but something that Ventus Will was able to do very well there was respect the limit. You see that Ventus Will has been racking up the damage with the PK Fire, but he doesn't want to use it so close to Greninja, or else a back air like that is going to happen, where now he is at a disadvantage, where, Greninja's only taken 73%.
And Greninja well in control in this first stock, already a 1-stock advantage over Ventus Will. You see that Blade Beam coming out, racking up a terrific amount of damage. And Coney, for Greninja and Cloud, any opportunity you get to knock Ness off the stage, but a bit of a miscalculation, that up B, sending Greninja to an early demise in their first stock.
Yeah, wondering if Greninja just hit the button one too many times and didn't realize it, or if he was just trying to take Ventus down with him. Just because if he did get that KO, he would be a full stock ahead. Not a huge detour for Greninja, still considerably ahead in terms of percent. But, obviously you don't want to lose the match after that and start thinking, well, what if I didn't give up that stock? What if I didn't SD? I have to see how he... Oh, that should be... Yeah, that should do it.
Yeah, now he's not too worried about losing that first stock that way, but I do believe that he wanted to try to drag him down with that double up B, which Cloud could actually keep you in place right there. But lucky for Ventus Will, he did avoid it, but unlucky for Ventus Will that he was going to lose that stock to that limit cross slash, something that you're going to have to be worried about with now Greninja up basically an entire stock over Ventus Will.
Greninja in full control in this matchup, just so much range on those disjointed hitboxes and aerials coming out from Cloud. Here comes another limit. Cross slash off stage, trying to gather Ness, and how about that? Greninja didn't need to use the down air there, Coney, but he does. And now Ventus Will has got some life on the final stock.
He definitely shouldn't have done that. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Hits him with the Charles Barkley swing. and that'll do it. Yeah, he didn't really have to go for that down air, but that's always a risk that you can run sometimes when you try to go for the big style, go for the clip. I think he was at an advantage, such high advantage that it didn't really matter too much. He's like, all right, if I lose my stock here, whatever. And he did end up winning, but yeah, that was a statement he was trying to make.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, you just want to put on a good show for the audience at home now, watching everybody just trying to be the star of the show, essentially. And although it did cost him his stock, he managed to take the first game now.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if Ventus will stick with Ness, because we saw there, Vicky, Ness had a really difficult time trying to get within that range of that Buster Sword for Cloud. And so we'll see what happens. No, sticking with Ness. Ventus Twill saying, I went with Ness, I started with Ness, we rolling through this together. Let's go ahead and get to Pokemon Stadium 2 here as we get set for a second game of this match. Winner will advance to the grand finals. Loser will be sent down to the losers bracket. And already it's Greninja once again here, Coney, with those hitboxes outspacing Ness, but Ventus 12 finally trying to get a couple of connections here, but once again off stage.
Yeah, Greninja being a little bit too eager, I think, pulling the trigger on that limit. You saw the cross slash there. I think he's trying to get Ventus Will jumping into it, but Ventus Will, again, sort of like we were talking about earlier, managing the resource. Ness's double jump is just so precious to that character, because if you get knocked out of it, it's usually your stock. So I feel like Greninja has to do a better job of sort of waiting, sort of pumping the brakes, waiting to see what Ventus Will is going to do. Meanwhile, Ventus Will wants to get Greninja off stage and get a yo-yo gimp, because I don't think we've seen a single one thus far.
Ooh, but unfortunately, though, you're right close to the ledge lip. Gonna get hit by that spike with the double up B, and we had seen in the last game Greninja try to go for something similar, but this time around actually managing to land its mark onto Ventus Will, and now that lead is slowly slipping away from Ventus Will, and now Greninja now being able to capitalize off of that.
Greninja with limit charge, misses on the cross slash, and Ventus Will gonna punish for the miss there. And that was huge there, Coney, because now you have a chance to make it a little bit more of an even match. If you had eaten that cross slash, that would have been a huge advantage for Greninja.
Yeah, it probably, obviously, it wouldn't have taken the stock, but it would have done so much damage and put Ventus Will off stage. Greninja, again, maybe needs to be a little less eager to let it go on the limit. You can hold on to it for up to 15 seconds, so maybe try to find your moment, pick your spot. Some Cloud players, they'll opt to use it, right away, just to get it off the board and just to try to catch their opponent off guard, but you may want to be a little bit more judicious about it. Let's see what happens here. We got the down throw, has the limit again. How is he going to use it?
Ooh, he does catch his landing right there, and he's been doing that quite a lot, actually, against Ventus Will. Greninja now gonna hold on to these two stocks versus Ventus Will, and it's just difficult in general for Ventus Will to essentially jump into that Cloud space, the respect, and being able to utilize that side B. Now that cross slash being able to get a lot of damage on the board for Greninja, being able to get that back air, trying to get that cross up in general, and it's looking a little grim here as, again, it's just difficult to get away from the large hitbox of the Buster Sword.
It's such a good point. A couple of cross slashes in this stock have really created the separation for Greninja. There's the down air that Greninja was looking for in the first game there, Coney. Able to connect, and Greninja, no issues whatsoever against Ventus Will. Ventus Will, remind you, didn't lose a single game in the round of 32, but now gets sent down to the losers bracket, and it's Greninja advancing to grand finals, putting on an absolute clinic with Cloud against Ventus Will and Ness.
Yeah, brutal down air there. One of the things that we talked about earlier are the diversity of fighters, right? There are so many great fighters. It's very difficult to pick a best fighter in the game, which is sort of unique to Smash Ultimate as opposed to other games, because they all fulfill such different roles. There's very clearly sort of a bell curve of strength, but at this level of play, it feels like it really comes down to the fighter choices. And when it comes to Ness against Cloud, I think the choice is pretty clear based on how those games went. Ventus Will just really struggled to get any kind of momentum, anything rolling there. And so with that, Greninja going to use that Cloud to great effect and move on to winners finals.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the updated bracket after our last match there. And as we said before, winners final, Greninja advancing to the grand finals.
Grand finals, yeah.
Will take on whoever emerges out of the losers bracket. Ventus will, don't count them out. They've got a chance to maybe recalibrate, rethink their strategy. You figure if they move on and face Greninja again, it will be interesting to see if they decide to go with Ness once again. But we're going to take a quick little break here, and when we come back, we will start with our loser semifinal and figure out who will eventually emerge and face off against Greninja as we continue to finish our first round of finals, regions 7 and 8, in the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open, May 2020. We'll be right back after this short message. And welcome back to the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open, May 2020. Jordan Kent, joined by my two friends, Vicky Kitty and Coney. We just got done figuring out who will be our first finalist in our grand finals, and that is Greninja moving along with a very impressive victory, cloud over Ventus Will's Ness. Now let's get started with our losers bracket. Let's take one more glance at that bracket if we can, just to show you the action that will be taking place before we get to grand finals. You see the bottom half of our bracket, it'll be Some Guy versus Crunchbat. Crunchbat, the Mewtwo player. And then Some Guys we saw with Pichu, but very capable with Dark Pit and Bowser. Winner of that will take on Ventus Will, and then eventually we will find an opponent for Greninja in those grand finals. So Some Guy versus Crunchbat here, Vicky. And what do you make of this matchup if we do see the Pichu coming out against Mewtwo?
So it essentially boils down to the two characters that we all basically call them a glass cannon. And now the hard hitter here, I would say, would be Pichu, just because now Pichu is that small character. You are going to be able to utilize the fact that Pichu could low profile under some of the things that Mewtwo is going to want to approach with. Now, the issue is also the fact that since Mewtwo has such a large hurt box, Mewtwo is going to get comboed a lot easier than Pichu finding themselves in that situation.
And Coney, it's really interesting because you've got Some Guy that has three fighters that they can choose, whereas Crunchbat is riding Mewtwo till the end, no matter who they face.
Yeah.
And so we have yet to really see that counter pick mid-match, but you figure you've now had a chance to sort of scout and see how people have played as you're watching the stream, and that's something you have to take into account. When do I go with my counter pick, which we won't see here? We're going to see Pichu versus Mewtwo, so it will be interesting, but you continue to use that phrase, manage your resources, and that is something Some Guy and Pichu will have to do.
Yeah, one of the things that Some Guy's going to have to work on in terms of like how we saw him play the last match is he was sort of, pedal to the metal the whole way through against Ventus Will. Ventus Will eventually started punishing for that. As you saw right there, Some Guy charging a smash attack before Crunchbat even picked an option. It feels like Some Guy is just maybe a little bit too eager, maybe a little too ambitious at times. And because of that, he's just getting punished again and again. It seems like the early aggression has paid off against Crunchbat. Crunchbat, to Some Guy's credit, Crunchbat is going to have to hold shield a lot just because with how light Mewtwo is, these back airs could be devastating, especially on a stage as small as this one even only at 107%. It's got to be very careful.
And some guy, as we mentioned, with the early advantage already has Crunchbat up to 127. Crunchbat with Mewtwo, we saw using that confusion and disable to really set up a lot of those KOs and those smash attacks here, Vicky. But right now, it's all some guy just keeping Crunchbat off the side of the stage. But don't forget, Crunchbat has got some of those KO throws.
Yeah, being able to throw out some guy off the stage, but some guy managing to find that stage control back online in the back air. The last hit just being the only one necessary to land onto Crunchbat, taking that first stock, and overall, essentially boiling down to the matchup that I was referring to where, you know, you're going to have Crunchbat taking more of those hits because of the large hurt boxes, but you see him trying to take advantage of using the platforms to expand on the movement ability. That Shadow Ball catching him off guard as he was trying to roll into the platform there. And overall, that's what you're going to be seeing Crunchbat do on a small stage like this. He's going to try to utilize the platforms to essentially expand onto where he could land.
And you bring up some really good points. And Coney, we continue to see some guy with Pichu is going to get so many different combos off of those throws. You've got to be able to create a little bit of distance between yourself and Pichu. And so far, no luck for Crunchbat and creating a little bit of real estate between the two of them.
Yeah, it just could be so dangerous if you're too close. Air dodge is off stage. Now that's privilege, being able to do that and still make it back to the stage. A lot of characters can't do that, but you two, very lucky in that regard, was able to air dodge off stage and still make it back, but even still, he's on the ropes going from post to post. Just that back air from some guy being laid out, but Crunchbat waiting it out, doing a good job here. Huge down smash, and that's going to be the KO.
And
that was really good timing, too.
Turn and momentum, as you point, Vicky. Very good timing, and that timing is going to be really difficult against a small target like Pichu, as some guy evens things up as we get set for our final stock. Don't forget, loser of this match will be eliminated from the bracket. The winner will advance to take on Ventus Will in our losers final. Right now, it's Crunchbat already eating an early 70%, and some guy, Coney, just so capable of racking up damage so quickly, that Mewtwo being such a big, large target once again.
Again, he's just a blender. He's just like this moving hazard on the stage that's constantly attacking. You can see him going for that back air. But the problem is when you're this aggressive, you can fish a little bit. You can be a little bit predictable. And I feel like we as commentators can kind of guess when he's going to smash attack because it's all the time. And if you give him the opportunity to do it, as Crunchbat did there, going for the get-up attack, some guy's going to parry it, get the down smash, and get the KO. Crunchbat has to be a little bit more reserved and careful around some guys, just constant aggression.
And especially coming off the ledge, Vicky, we saw that Crunchbat trying to be very aggressive, getting back on your recovery, and really good players are going to read that eventually and make you pay. And we saw that with the parry leading to the smash.
Yeah, and you know, just utilizing that mistake that Crunchbat had unfortunately made there, and also just taking the 70% on his last stock when he couldn't really afford to do so, being a light character himself. Those are the lightning loops, the blender, as Coney likes to call it, and it was really working out in his favor.
All right, so Crunchbat falling to some guy getting the first game in that match. Let's rack it up again. No fighter change yet, Coney. We have yet to see that counter pick. It seems like they're just very determined to ride things out with who they've gone with. What adjustments do you think Crunchbat needs to make with Mewtwo in this game?
If I'm being honest, one of the biggest adjustments is getting lucky on stage, because part of this is, you know, the stages are random and we have a large list of choices. I don't think we've seen a single final destination, but Battlefield is, I think, going to be way better for Crunchbat here, just because it's a much bigger stage, it's much larger, so he's going to be able to survive longer than Pichu. And it also gives him more space to play around because of the fact that Yoshi's obviously, you know, it has the wall there, so you can't go under the stage, you can't use that space, but I feel like Crunchbat might be able to hug the wall a little bit more, sort of that curve, but it seems like more of the same starting out here. This cat and mouse game is just, Pichu is just running away with this one.
And it's almost literally a cat and mouse if you really want to break things down. We aren't going to get into Pokemon biology too deep here, but early on, first off for both fighters, and it's some guy's ability here, and this is what we've seen in the previous game, Vicky, is some guy's ability to apply the constant pressure on Crunchbat. And Tony was saying, Crunchbat's got a little bit more room to work with, but you've got to really win neutral and win the bottom part of the stage here to make sure that you are keeping some guy just out of your face for the match, because this is what we're seeing, some guy just right in the mug of Crunchbat and Mewtwo.
interesting to see the pacing that some guys been going for. You know, in the first game, similar actually to some guys set versus Ventus Will. Some guy went really aggressive at the beginning and then slowly started slowing down when he realized that it was honestly costing him a lot of percent, and very similar to the pacing in this game too. Some guy really slowing it down, honestly trying to capitalize off of Crunchbat's mistakes and being more aggressive. That's kind of like why we're having a standoff right now between the Shadow Ball and the Jones.
And as we know, some guy and Pichu, very light character, but this could be a really pivotal point in this match here, Coney, because some guy already racking up 62 with that one stock advantage.
That would have been the stock there. If he got the Thunder on Pichu.
Oh,
no. From Crunchbat, just barely off ledge, and shades of what we saw earlier against Greninja. You saw Crunchbat not making it to the stage. He tried to get to the ledge and went a little bit above, and some guy is not going to let up. Crunchbat is not at any control, finally landing that back throw. But good gracious, this is bad.
Yeah, with Peach, you could almost live at 200%. That is definitely something new to see. You don't really get to see that too often, and some guy trying to capitalize off of the offstage play here from Crunchbat, try to get the back air, but Crunchbat knowing better, going for that low recovery to get back onto the stage a lot faster to maintain that stage control.
Yeah, you mentioned the stage control, so critical here. Crunchbat really can't afford to take much more damage. If you can sneak a quick KO here and get some guy down to his final stock, possibly because both fighters are so light, but at this point, it is just too much some guy, too much quickness, too many options, and some guy, once again, closing things out against Crunchbat, and some guy will move on to our losers final, and Crunchbat and Mewtwo, a valiant effort, but just not enough to keep up with Pichu and Coney. Once again, it's some guy and the ability to read all the options that Crunchbat was going to use off the ledge, and a terrific read to close out that match.
Yeah, there at the end, it was just sort of closing every window, closing every door. There was no way out from that position. And as soon as Crunchbat hit the ground and he didn't tech, as soon as he just gave some guy more time to catch up to him and get the down smash and place his attack, it was over from there. Some guy just using Pichu's mobility, his speed, his quickness, and his raw just damage, his power is just insane. You saw some guy use that to great effect. Crunchbat, unfortunately, despite some great showings that we saw, we know that he has the talent and the potential. We've seen him pop off in these sets, but it unfortunately just was not enough at this level. Making it to the dance all the way here at the top 4, but just could not pull it out.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the updated bracket after we move on to our losers finals here. It'll be some guy, a rematch against Ventus Will. They faced off in the winners semifinal. Different paths to get there, but they will get a chance to refresh things, maybe recalibrate a few things as well too, as they get set to fight and be the winner, and whoever will advance to take on Greninja as well. And Vicky, last time we saw some guy taking on Ventus Will, it was pretty close. It was 2-1 obviously in the match, and Ventus Will moves on. But I wonder if we will see that Ness versus Pichu, or if some guy might try to change things up based upon the fact that, well, they lost with their Pichu to Ventus Will's Ness earlier on.
Yeah, well, now that some guy has that matchup knowledge and understands what Ventus Will is going to go into the game with, maybe we're going to see a counter pick. And that's the beauty of Smash Ultimate, where you have such a plethora of characters to pick from. But perhaps sticking with a Pichu, understanding what some guy could do to readjust around Ventus Will. We saw some guy take just too much damage, and the threshold that Pichu could live at versus Ness is too big of a gap for Pichu. So I think the slower pace is going to be in effect in the first game, versus what we saw in the last set between these two, where some guy was a lot more aggressive.
And we are not going to see a fighter change. Let's go ahead and rack it up and hit the cue ball. It is some guy, Ventus Will, losers final. Winner will go on to take on Greninja in the grand finals, region 7 and 8. So let's pick up the action early on, and already it's the same story we saw against Mewtwo. It's the early damage rack up by some guy in Pichu. Just so good, especially with those safe approaching aerials here, Coney.
Yeah, it feels like some guy is just so good going from ledge to ledge, racking up a ton of damage. But one thing that I noticed Ventus Will doing against some guy in particular in their earlier set is utilizing get-up attack. One of the issues that you have is when you're constantly attacking at the ledge, the get-up attack is actually invincible, and it'll go through any attack that you throw out. So if Ventus Will can keep placing that get-up attack in a wise way, like some guy will have to sort of slow things down. Like you guys were saying, I'm a little surprised we're not seeing a character switch because I feel like some guy is just all offense all the time, but it's going to work out there as the double T-Jolt is going to steal Ventus Will's chances and making it back to the stage.
Yeah, one of the things that differentiates Pichu and Pikachu is that recovery and the fact that Pikachu does have that hitbox, whereas Pichu's essentially a floating duck, literally, and that's why I'm a little worried about the yo-yo, but some guy taking advantage of the disadvantage that Ventus Will was at when it came to him having to come back towards the ledge.
Yeah, it's really exciting seeing both these fighters get on the ledge. It seems like they're trading ledge positions back and forth. Someone will recover, that send the other one flying, and that ledge trapping game is going to be critical in this matchup. We saw that some guy really disorienting Ventus Will, couldn't connect with that PK Thunder, but some guy once again living long with Pichu. Pichus aren't supposed to go past their expiration date here, Coney.
No, absolutely not. This is way further than a Pichu's normal life expectancy. This is a very old Pichu here. This stock is getting moldy. It's growing sprouts. Ventus Will, oh no, not again. Shades of the first stock. It's just deja vu here as some guy just bursting so far ahead.
And some guy really punishing Ventus Will and Ness when they get off stage, and Ventus Will unable to use that PK Thunder successfully on both those stocks that they lost, and now it's 2-1, and some guy, as we know, so capable of racking up the damage. But Vicky, we've seen Ventus Will really utilize that PK fire to approach and then lead into some combos.
Yeah, what's the difference between some guy and Ventus Will at the moment is some guy has been taking more advantage of Ventus Will's issue of getting back onto the stage, using those jolts to his ability to actually clip Ventus Will. We have him now in a similar situation where he is off stage, opting to go for that low recovery, but instead of trying to go with just the up B, opting to actually go for the jump to get to that ledge invincibility instead.
The down throw combo coming out once again from some guy has got Ventus Will right where he wants them, on the left side of the stage, and it's been so difficult to recover. But don't sleep on this game yet. Ventus Will able to get another KO. We're down to our final stock for both fighters. And right now, it's all about who doesn't make the biggest mistake, it seems like, Tony.
And I think it may have been Ventus Will there going, well, okay, it didn't really pay off that poorly, but you saw Ventus Will going for the down air, trying to end the game quickly. Nest down air is incredibly difficult to hit the sweet spot to get that spike on. Ventus Will not able to land. It took a lot of percent, but thankfully did not lose her stock there, as we are down to the final stock. Next hit might do it. Can Ventus Will, despite being so far behind, maybe she'll be able to pull this out. Keep in mind that Nest back throw.
Some guys got Ventus Will off the side of the stage, and that is the theme of this game. The inability of Ventus Will to recover consistently on the left side of this stage. Some guy, the ledge trapping doing a terrific job of closing out this game. And that's what you said here, Coney. When you get down to that final stock, you really can't afford some of those big mistakes that are going to hand momentum over to your opponent.
You got to stay on stage as long as possible. There, in that final stock, what happened was, yeah, it's a T-Jolt. So if you hit Ness with anything as he's trying to recover, as he uses the PK Thunder 2 and hits himself, throwing anything into that really lessens the distance that it goes. And you saw some guy placing that T-Jolt right where Ventus Will was going to go. And unfortunately, because of that, the distance was about halved, I think. And because of that, Ventus Will not able to make it back to the ledge. And some guy's going to take that one. Ventus Will just has to get on stage and stay on stage.
Yeah, and Vicky, as you said, that T-Jolt is such a powerful edge guarding and ledge trapping tool for some guy, and really utilizing that to its full potential in that last matchup. But once again, some guy just out to the early lead, and that can play mind games if you are Ventus Will, and you've got to play from behind for the majority of the match.
Yeah, it's nice to know that the momentum's also in some guy's part, where some guy had just finished playing that set that we had just seen, and, you know, Ventus Will actually having to wait a little bit in losers for that set to finish. So some guy figuring things out, you know, whereas some guy in the very beginning versus Ventus Will for their first set was still trying to figure out what he had to do necessarily against Ventus Will. And now we've been seeing the difference here, though. Ventus Will bringing it back, that yo-yo as the active hitbox, not going to let some guy make it back, and now Ventus Will in the driver's seat with the lead.
Yeah, Ventus Will and Ness, that yo-yo at the side of the stage has been so effective throughout this entire tournament. But now it's some guy who's finding themselves trailing. Ventus Will trying to get a couple of PK Thunders off to recover, but it won't be enough. And once again, such a high degree of difficulty for the recovery with Ness. And you've got to be dialed in with that. And that's really been the Achilles heel for Ventus Will in this match, Tony.
It's so tough. It's so hard to get the first time. So if you bounce against the stage like that, you do get a second PK Thunder, which is what you saw Ventus Will utilize. She was able to, get 2 recoveries, but that angle is so difficult because you don't want to bonk your head on the stage. You have to go with the slope and curve. And it seemed like she did it, but just a little bit off, maybe by mere degrees. And because that some guy now gets an opportunity to get back into the game, Ventus Will only did 35% for that PK Thunder 2, but it was not enough to save her life. And now this stock may be over too.
Bonk your head, spoken like a true dad there, Tony. Welcome to the club. I love it right there. Look out for your bonkers and your oopsies. Some guy falling back on the middle of the stage, controlling things out here, throwing out a couple of T-jolts. Ness missing with the tilt. Once again, down throw leading into the Thunder, but Ventus Will and some guy trading stocks. What did we just see there?
We saw a trade essentially for what looked like it was gonna be in more so in Ventus Will's favor, just because of the amount of damage that Ventus Will took in the middle of utilizing the fact that he was avoiding some guy. They both just blew up essentially right there. Unfortunately, KO from both parts, but fortunately now we have an even game.
Some guy trying to close things out against Ventus Will, but Ventus Will connects with the aerial and Coney. Ventus Will not ready to quit and give up in this tournament yet. Evens things out at 1 game each. You have to love how they closed out that match there.
That was like 4 or 5 back airs in a row, just kick over and over, just placing those hits again and again. That was super tight and just so clean from Ventus Will, because that's not an easy aerial to hit, especially on such a tiny character like Pichu. So Ventus Will really rallying there in the last stock, and I'm wondering if it's going to be how their first set was in winner's bracket. If you remember, Ventus Will lost the first game and then sort of slowly, like you said, recalibrated, tightened the bolts, figured it out. He's now got the 3rd game to try to make this work. I'm interested to see what stage they go to, though, because is it Battlefield, which is huge, and, everybody's going to live forever? Is it Yoshi's, which is really tiny? I think stage is going to be super important for this game 3.
And it's a really good point you bring up, because, Vicky, we've seen Pichu and some guy really excel on those smaller stages where you can just continue to rush down your opponent. You don't have a whole lot of room to run. And when we've seen Ventus Will be successful with Ness, it's because Ness has been able to space out Pichu somewhat and then read what Pichu is doing. So no changes in the fighters. But as Coney said, what stage? Let's go ahead and enter Battlefield. Nice, pretty even matchup for both fighters on this stage here. If you are some guy here, Vicky, what are you looking to do to close out this match now that you've had a really good sample size against Ventus Will in this Ness?
I would essentially watch out more so against whenever Ventus Will does have that rage being racked up, and not trying to approach versus Ventus Will in the air, in terms of whenever Ventus Will is going to try to come back. When some guy has that disadvantage and some guy is not as close to the stage as Ventus Will is, it could be difficult, and you could get caught by those back airs that we saw from Ventus Will land on some guy. And the only reason why that really happened was because some guy was trying to hold forward to get back to the stage as fast as possible.
PK fire coming out from Ventus Will. Both fighters just exchanging a couple of glancing blows. Nobody with a clear advantage at this point, but also the platforms really come into play here, Coney, and being able to get yourself underneath your opponent is going to put you in such a better advantageous state.
Yeah, in Smash, it's sort of a general rule of thumb. It's an understood thing that being above your opponent is a very bad thing. So that's why you're going to see these guys sort of patrol the bottom side. Ventus Will trying to catch some guy jumping, but it doesn't happen. I do think this sort of, I gotta be honest, I think the stage does favor some guy more than Ventus Will, just because it is going to extend the blast zones. It means that some guy's going to live for longer. Ventus Will isn't getting KO'd because of damage. Ventus Will is getting KO'd because of edge guarding. And that's going to happen on any stage because, no stage has a floor. And huge down smash there from some guy, that's going to be devastating to Ventus Will.
Yeah, some guy waiting for the smash attack of Ventus Will to whiff and gets the punish. And Vicky, as you continue to point out, it's about reading your opponent and finding those really narrow openings to capitalize.
Yeah, we finally get the back over there. And it was unfortunate, too, because Ventus Will had tried to go for a really hard read, and because of that, some guy took advantage with the down smash. And although it did look like Ventus Will, she could have DI'd it just a little bit better, but not doing so, unfortunately. And now, with 37%, some guy is trying to take this lead to a different level.
Both fighters on their second stock. Winner will move on to the grand finals to take on Greninja and Coney. This has been the most exciting matchup we've seen throughout this entire 4-player double elimination bracket, and the fireworks continue to pop off.
I'd say so. Huge forward smash there from some guy. Just a haymaker all the way on Ventus Will with the extension on the forward smash. Ventus Will is going to have to pull something out here as some guy is trying to go for his revenge. Keep in mind, Ventus Will is who knocked some guy into losers, and now it looks like some guy might advance, but Ventus Will using these aerials to great effect. But the platforms, as you were saying, seem to be great relief for some guy there as he retreated to the top platform using that Pichu up B. Great use of his resources trying to get out of there. The back row, is it fact or fiction? It's fact! That's going to take it.
Yep, and
Will closing things out here and making it even. And Vicky, as you said, with Pichu, the match can turn at any moment because you're a very light character, and we've seen Ventus Will with just the tenacity to never give up, and then another really good read with the yo-yo once again.
Yeah, we saw something similar within Crunchbat versus some guy, where some guy was able to bring it back despite being, a little down there. But now some guy still in the game, but has to be careful. He is a glass cannon again, and so he is more susceptible to getting knocked out a lot earlier than Ventus Will. And the way that Ventus Will has been playing so far, just essentially capitalizing off of some guy's play off the ledge and trying to get back to stage control.
Both fighters nearing 100%. Final stock, the Thunder, and that'll do it. Some guy backs revenge against Ventus Will. After getting knocked out in the first round of the winner's semi, some guy battles all the way back in the loser's bracket and will now face Greninja in the grand finals. And as you said before, Coney, those platforms really benefited some guy and able to use the superior mobility that they had over Ness and Ventus Will to really close out that match.
Yeah, if I'm going to be honest, man, I felt like some guy was just constantly hitting. Just constant swinging, A button, A button, A button, down smash, back air, up tilt, and there the down tilt into the Thunder, just constant attacks. And that last stock I thought was going to be played a lot slower. Like, I thought that it was going to be like them just sitting under the platform, sort of taking their time. But some guy landed that one opening on Ventus Will. Ventus Will's not ready for it, landing the Thunder. And that's going to do it. Some guy is going to advance into finals.
Let's go ahead and take a look at that bracket now that we have our grand finals set here and our finals between regions 7 and 8. Greninja, who is yet to lose a match, will take on some guy. Don't forget, some guy will have to reset the bracket against Greninja. And so some guy will have to take 2 matches away from Greninja if they want to be victorious. Greninja just 1 match away from being your winner. Don't forget that winner will get a digital download code for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2, digital code for the Splatoon 2 game, and the ARMS game as well too. And so this is where it gets interesting when it comes to fighter choice, Vicky, because we saw Greninja use Cloud. We've seen some Joker come out as well too. But now you have a very fast rushdown character in Pichu. What direction do you think Greninja might go in when it comes to their fighter here?
Well, neither of these players have played against each other thus far, so this is going to be the first time that Greninja is going to be exposed to the rushdown Pichu that we've been seeing from some guy. But we can't count out some guy either, because we also seen that some guy has played a plethora of other characters on his own between the Dark Pit and Bowser. So Counter Pick Central could be coming up here for Grand Finals. So it's going to be quite interesting to see which of these characters that these players are going to opt to go for.
And sometimes momentum plays a huge role here. We have seen this. Some guy has played 3 matches in a row now, whereas Greninja's had to sit a little bit. Ventus Will had to sit a little bit. Does that factor in when you get to this high level of a play here, Coney?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no question. I read a stat a long time ago. I don't know if it's still true, but people coming from losers bracket 1, I think way more than average, like 60, 70% of the time. And it's because they're playing hot. They played a lot of matches to get back into this. And let's not forget, some guy, it's not like he dipped down straight to losers finals. He had to play all the way back up. So we'll see if he manages to do it. I do think he's going to struggle against Greninja because I feel like the constant onslaught of aggression, I think Greninja, his play looked a little bit more sophisticated, and I think he's going to be a little bit more ready for that. But I think it does come down to character choice, like you guys were saying. The fact that we haven't seen any Dark Pit or Bowser thus far leads me to believe he's just going to stick with Pichu all the way through, just rock with that. But that's going to be tough against Cloud, and it might be even tougher against Joker. I'm really interested to see how this one goes.
Yeah, and as we said before, it's random stage selection. And Vicky, do you think the stage is going to play any type of impact in this matchup if we do see Cloud versus Pichu and no surprises with our fighters?
Yeah, absolutely. Coney was mentioning how, one of the biggest rules in Smash is you don't want to be above your opponent. That sets you up already for a disadvantaged state. And if Cloud is going to be in the fray, those platforms are going to be deadly if some guy is going to be on top of them, especially when he wants to expand on those combos. That Buster Sword essentially covers almost the entire platform, I believe. So it could be difficult for some guy to just make it back to the stage and at least get some sort of stage control.
And we look at the fact that we're here in grand finals here, Coney, and you've seen a lot of championship matches as they get set to decide a winner here for a tournament. What's the mindset that you have to approach when you get to this point? Because now you've gotten into a little bit of a groove, but you know that you've got that championship right there in front of you. You're just a match or two away from that.
Yeah, you got to take every game one game at a time. One of the things that can happen sometimes is I've actually been a competitor before. I've been on both sides of this. I've been the guy coming into grands from losers. I've been the guy waiting in grands and winners. And I can tell you from losers bracket, you can sort of jazz yourself up a little bit sometimes where you'll say, okay, well, I just won a match. I just got to win 5 more. It's not that hard. It gets harder. Some players are much, much stronger sort of over time. I do think that some guy does have a bit of a benefit because these are both 2 out of 3 sets. So, he doesn't have to win, 2 grueling, potentially game 5 sets. But he's going to have to switch stuff up. And I feel like Greninja does have the advantage just because he's sitting in winners. He only has to win 2 games and then it's all done. So we'll see how these guys play it out. Some guys' resolve is really going to be tested here, along with his adaptability and sort of ability to play around what Greninja is trying to do.
Yeah, that's a good point you talk about there, Coney, because obviously you want to reward aggression, and aggressive players can tend to put a lot of pressure on their opponents. But you said a sophisticated player, and if you're able to do that, you can then read that aggression and find something to counter with each time.
Yeah, there's a difference between just all-out aggression, like almost like a barbarian, right? And something that's maybe a little bit, more like a surgeon. You're sort of finding your moments and sort of with much more precision. From what I've seen from some guy, I worry that sometimes he's maybe a little bit too sort of just constant all-out. And I don't know if Greninja will be able to. I feel like Greninja might be able to sort of suppress that. But, I mean, we'll have to see in the match coming up. Some guy might show us something we haven't seen before.
All right, as we get set for our grand finals here, it is Greninja taking on some guy. We've seen Greninja just roll through the competition using a combination of Joker and Cloud. Some guy, meanwhile, really utilizing Pichu and riding Pichu all the way through the losers bracket to get to grand finals. And what I'm really excited about seeing in this matchup here, Vicky, is just how capable Pichu will be able to edge guard against Cloud. We know Cloud doesn't necessarily have the best recovery, but at the same time, we know that Cloud can still get back on stage, still has some weapons, isn't afraid to dip low as well too, especially when they get on the offensive.
Yeah, so we've been seeing some guy utilize 2 of Pichu's best tools when it comes to offstage pressure, and that's the T-Jolt, and that's the forward tilt by the ledge to two-frame, essentially the other fighters that we've seen throughout the bracket. And I think that's going to play a huge factor in at least trying to make a comeback if Greninja happens to be in the lead, which that damage output from Cloud is going to be showing that more than anything. It all depends, though, at how many times Greninja is going to be at that disadvantage state for some guy to take advantage of that.
And Coney, if you're using Cloud, it's about getting your limit and getting time to charge that. But it seems like you might not have a whole lot of time to sit back and have some lemonade on the porch and charge limit against Pichu and some guy for how quickly they want to rush down on you the entire match.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I was going to sort of go with the angle that, Pichu might perish very quickly against Cloud with that limit. I mean, you got to keep in mind that limit cross slash might KO Pichu at 50, 60, 70, depending on where they are on the stage. But that's a very good point that you bring up where some guy is just all out, right? He's just chasing you down. He's trying to hammer you in, and there's no time to charge the limit. So the only limit that you're going to get is from getting hit, honestly, or landing hits on your own. So we'll see if Greninja can use that limit in wise ways. Like we saw before, I feel like he is sort of the penchant to kind of let it go early and not really wait for the opportunity and kind of let it rip right away. So maybe he'll have to be a little bit more sort of discerning on that. But It all comes down to sort of how these players feel each other out. I think in the early game too. I think the first game is going to be huge for establishing the pace of the rest of the set.
Yeah, both players getting set to face off against each other in grand finals. Once again, these are the grand finals for the Region 7 and 8, Northeastern North America, as we like to say it here, for our Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open, May 2020. Don't forget, next week on June 7th, we'll have the finals for Regions 5 and 6. That'll represent Southeast North America as well, too. So plenty of action. And you know, we talked about 3,000 players just for Region and 7 and 8 combined here, Vicky, and just to be able to get to this round of 4 and get to this finals is impressive in and of itself. But it looks like we're ready to roll here, and here we see Joker coming out very much like Greninja did, pulling out Joker against an Inkling in the round of 32. And what do you think is the thinking behind this here, Vicky?
Yeah, I think it settled down to what Coney was mentioning before. Now it's not the fact of trying to get the Gip onto Cloud. Now it's actually even harder where, you know, both Cloud and Joker have the ability to rack up this meter. So that way now, instead of the final meter, you're going to have to be thinking about the fact that Joker is going to have that Arsene on board and the back air that is going to be coming into play when it comes to some guy approaching from the air. But now you also have to think about some guy playing a character like Pichu could low profile under a lot of these moves, especially on a stage like Lilac.
And Arsene already joining the battle. Greninja going to go ahead and wait for that smash attack to cool down. Good read, but the down throws have been such a pivotal tool for some guy and his Pichu throughout this entire tournament here, Tony.
Yeah, getting the down throw combos has been super huge for him, but that waiting for that forward smash is exactly what I was sort of talking about before. Greninja is kind of waiting, taking a second, and realizing he doesn't have to get up right away to see if some guy can sort of adapt to that. He does have the advantage early on. See if he can get this edge guard. Greninja definitely avoiding that back air. Some guy now in the bad spot. He's going to go under the stage. Excellent use of that Pichu up B and recovery to change his fade up and be able to make it to the other side.
Yeah, some guy just really changing things up against Greninja with that recovery. And we've seen some guy get out to the early lead, but Arsene is not too long away. And Vicky, when you're fighting against anybody that's using Joker, it's all about when can you take that stock and how their Arsene meter is building up, because that's such a pivotal point of any Joker's game, is utilizing Arsene at the best time in these games.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, although the lead is in some guy's favor, the unfortunate truth about Pichu is you never really have the lead at the same time. Something as fatal to that is, you know, Pichu loses its stock really early and still living to basically 172%. That forward tilt is going to finalize Greninja's first stock here. Although some guy with a slight lead, it may not last for too long at 156.
Some guy taking the first stock off of Greninja, but as we mentioned before, some guy really close to the edge here, getting KO'd with that percentage. But this is what you've got to do in these games here, Coney, is when you realize that you've got a stock lead and you've got some percentage on yourself, you're just trying to chip away and get a little bit of your homework done before you get set to the next lesson.
Finally losing that stock. The fact that some guy is staying alive so long on these stocks is just, it's criminal. I mean, that's supposed to be the weakness of the character, but some guy just eliminating Greninja here takes out the second stock just without sweating.
Some guy with bricks in his pockets, apparently, in this game, already out to the advantage, as you mentioned before, but Greninja not too far away from bringing Arsene out again, and here we go. Greninja might have a window of an opportunity to come back, but it's all some guy, all the momentum, riding the wave out of the loser's bracket and putting some pressure on Greninja, trying to take this first game here, Vicky.
We were talking about keeping your hands warm, you know, throughout these last 3 sets, that some guy has been able to actually just do exactly that. You could see it being utilized to its full potential, but now you're seeing a little bit of a different playstyle from Greninja, actually giving more respect to some guy and opting to go for more so reads. You see, not trying to overextend it, managing to catch that recovery. You saw some guy actually try to go for the ledge, but unfortunately missing right above it, and he is going to get caught by Greninja's smash attack there.
Yeah, we see Greninja trying to go with that down B to build up the Arsene meter, but well read by some guy, leading into another down throw combo, and that's already created this deficit of 97-6 on the final stock. And this is where some guy, that aggression, you've got to be pinpoint accurate, because you cannot allow Greninja to get back into this, build up Arsene, and be just a couple of connections away from ending this game here, Coney.
Yeah, we're coming down about 4 minutes past, so I'm very interested in the timer because this has been a bit more slow pace. Some guy has been able to sort of cut through his opponents like a hot knife through butter. But Greninja has put up a bit more of a fight. That back air will land and it will be the KO even still. And some guy, I think it was all nailed down as soon as he landed that forward smash on the right side of the stage. I believe Greninja got KO'd at sub 100%, which is just, that's tragic for him. You can't lose your stock that early against Pichu. It's just going to set you up for disappointment.
Yeah.
And you also pointed out too, Coney, and this is something that we were chatting about, Vicky, about Pichu is, yes, Pichu can rack up a ton of damage, but what you're trading off is that lightweight. And if you get anything close to 100% damage, you're supposed to be KO'd. Well, what some guys really done here, Vicky, is live beyond 120, 130, and be able to rack up that damage on that second stock to give them just enough of a lead to close out these games.
Yeah, it's not even against Greninja, just throughout the bracket in total. Some guy's been doing a really good job at sustaining that survivability, but now being able to keep the lead like that, in general, it's just very difficult to make a comeback versus Pichu when he was exactly an entire stock ahead. I mean, I believe he was like at 0% when Greninja lost his stock at 80.
So here we are, some guy, one game away from resetting the bracket here in Grand Finals. Greninja looking to try and recalibrate after taking that first L with Joker. As we said before, Coney, it was all about Pichu and some guy's ability to sort of steal that second stock from Greninja. Let's see if Greninja plays a little bit more of a patient baiting game, looking for those quick little windows to capitalize against some guy in Pichu.
I was expecting to see, honestly, but I feel like some guy's aggression is just too much for Greninja to keep up with. I'm really surprised at the ability of some guy to find these openings and just sort of flow through the wall. I mean, like, it feels like there's one brick missing in a wall and he just tears all the way through it. Right now, it's about even between the two, but Arsene's gonna go away, so Greninja might have a little bit more trouble getting the KO. We'll see if some guy can get stage.
And that's the thing about Joker here, Vicky. When you don't have Arsene, you don't have a ton of KO options. As some guy, the sticks are still on fire. Goes ahead and takes that first knock. And let's see if some guy, this is where we've seen it, Vicky, living at 126, 130, and being able to rack up damage on that second stock, finding that separation.
Yeah, some guy not needing a persona of his own here, just managing to find that KO instead. And with the lead, it's going to be a little tricky because we were just talking about you don't want that lead to escape you, and some guy's been running around with it versus Greninja. In general, although whenever he does get that aggression going, it's difficult for Greninja to get out of here. And because this Grand Finals isn't a 3 out of 5, some guy only needs one more win to basically bracket reset, and perhaps he may see a change from Greninja if he wants to opt to go for the Cloud within that second set.
Yeah, and Coney, what we see here is some guy really doing a terrific job of waiting out Arsene, and it's all some guy. Pichu might be the lightest character in the game, but might have the biggest heart, as some guy is just one stock away from resetting this Grand Final bracket. You can't stop him, Coney. You can't stop him. It's just aerial after aerial for some guy in Pichu.
The unstoppable force just tearing through his opponents again. No way! No, the whole
Do it!
The entire charge? That was nuts. Some guy gets the whole charge on forward. Ends with the tree stock. Oh no, living to 174%. He should not do that. Pichu should not be able to do that. I can't believe he's doing it.
On a silver platter.
It's so funny here, Vicky. I've got an 18-month-old son, and just like Pichu, a small little mammal just dictating the day and how things go right here. And Pichu resetting the bracket with some guy, and now we get to Grand Finals, winner take all on this final match. And we've talked about aggression, but if you don't have a good defensive game plan against that aggression here, Vicky, you can see how quickly you get overwhelmed. And it seems like no matter when somebody bounces back with that fresh stock, Pichu gets them to 40, 50%, just like that.
Yeah, it's just difficult for Greninja to recover, and you could say, honestly, he's quite a bit shooketh with the way that some guy has been playing as aggressively as he can. And just as I was thinking about it, the Cloud Switch is on board, and Coney gets his wish. We are here on Final Destination.
Yeah, and Coney, Final Destination, no platforms whatsoever. You've got tons of space to roll around and play here. And Greninja making the switch to Cloud. I wonder if that'll change anything, but already some guy, those aerial combos, just able to rack up so much damage.
I don't know how the Cloud's gonna fare. I do think he needed to do something, and I think that going Cloud was a great choice. It just, I'm gonna be honest, like I was saying, I thought that some guy was gonna struggle against Greninja early on, and I was clearly very wrong on that, as some guy just kind of burned through him, especially in that second game. This is the first time I think we're seeing Final Destination here, and I think Greninja kind of rolling something a little unlucky here, a stage with no platforms on Cloud, but he's doing okay here so far, pretty even, gets that huge cross slash, doing a lot of damage, but it all comes down to this edge game.
Oh, but narrowly avoiding Greninja, some guy right there. He does manage to get back, but just as quickly, he is going to be off stage. Some guy not going to be able to utilize that, but the patience catching the roll. Some guy still in the lead here. Now Greninja having to figure a way to make the comeback.
And Coney is down smash on the edge. That's been the bread and butter for some guy with Pichu. Just reading the recovery so well. And some guy, it seems like it doesn't matter what fighter you're throwing out there. Some guy's got a game plan with Pichu, and that is, I'm going to get up all in your face and not give you any options or any room to breathe.
Yeah, what he does is he pushes you to the ledge, and then you're either going to get down smash, forward smash. He might just do a reverse back air, so he'll just jump backward at you, and that catches jump from ledge, that catches roll in, catches a ton of different things. So some guy has a myriad of options at the ledge that he's kind of cycling through. And again, bro, 153? Come on! This is nuts!
Some guy and Pichu living well beyond the typical percentage you're going to see. Down smash on the edge once again. Vicky, this is just some guy. It doesn't matter what language, what fighter. They're able to read it all, and some guy taking full control of this tournament, looking to get one more stock to take the first game in grand finals. Remember, both players are down to their final loss, and whoever wins this match will win it all.
I mean, you have to think about the fact that Greninja had to take a little bit of a breather there, coming down from that top platform. And at the same time thinking, I felt for that again, you know, rolling back onto the stage, getting caught by that down smash, now having to force his way back with stage control, with some guys still up an entire stock over Greninja.
And Greninja almost close to building limit, but some guy, what we've seen here, Coney's done a great job of darting in and out of sort of that zone of that Buster Sword that Greninja has, and able to just stay just enough outside of that zone not to get punished for a lot of those approaches in the neutral game.
I feel like some guy's doing an excellent job of using that mobility like we talked about. Greninja waiting for the smash. Excellent wait. Excellent get-up attack. Just getting some free damage. Some guy maybe being a little bit too aggressive there, but honestly, I'm pretty gobsmacked because I did not expect this to be such a blowout. We'll see if Greninja can figure something out here. Has him at the ledge. Only about half limit. Forward tilt will do it. Greninja now in control. It seems like he's in the driver's seat. He has a lot of momentum here. We'll see if that can translate to a game win.
And right now, Greninja just, with the stage control, keeping some guy off the side, able to build up limit as well, too. Throwing out a couple of different options for that edge. Going Thunder connects, and some guy with so many tools to get back on stage and apply pressure. Doesn't matter where they're at, Pichu will find you, Vicky.
Yeah, you saw the freeze frame right there, actually adding a little dramatic effect to some guys' first game victory here in the bracket reset. I mean, now going into this next game is either going to be some guy taking the entire thing from right underneath Greninja, or if Greninja could try to bring it back despite the bracket getting resetted.
So some guy who got sent down to the loser's bracket after a first-round loss to Ventus Will has battled their way all the way back to grand finals, has reset the bracket. It's been all Pichu applying pressure against everybody. Greninja now with their back up against the wall, unlike anything they've seen, not even in the round of 32. I'm curious to see if we're going to see Cloud or see Joker here, but it seems like it's Greninja being forced to adapt here versus some guy that is just sitting back and saying, oh, and how about this?
Hey,
Cody, a complete change-up is what the catcher calls for here.
I think he had to. I think he had to do something. Joker was not the play. Cloud got ran over. You got to do something. And I guess the answer is the blue blur. We got Sonic the Hedgehog is out now. to try to deal with Pichu, and maybe the idea is to sort of match the speed. Maybe he could create distance and kind of run away a little bit more and catch his breath, because I feel like some guys just constantly pushing the issue, aggressing. Maybe we're just waiting for some guy to hurt himself a little bit more, because let's keep in mind those electric attacks have done so much percent to some guy over the course of the day. So we'll see what Greninja's strategy is here as Sonic is making his first appearance of the day.
And Vicky, with Sonic in your neutral, it's not like most other characters where you're looking to kind of land that jab, that tilt, or that safe aerial approach and lead into combos. With Sonic, you're just darting in and out, looking for those openings, but also you've got the speed to punish essentially any fighter on any whiff or landing.
Oh, but unfortunately, it looked like he was trying to go for the platform there, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, it looked like he had unfortunately just fallen right through it and losing his stop pretty early. This is the lead that some guy exactly wanted. Now, with only 75%, he could afford to take in that self-destructive damage that the T-Jolts do to himself in general, like the electric moves that he has. And now Greninja at a disadvantage. He maybe not getting tilted necessarily, but now keeping some guy at least off stage. Wants to try to take advantage of the fact that he has to make this comeback.
Listen, Coney, I'm not fooled. Some guy in Pichu at 128, I'm not even sweating bullets, because we faced some guy that lived to 160, 170, 180, even there taking the throw and still alive at 148. Some guy hanging on there, but gonna go ahead and face the retribution coming out from Greninja. Greninja evening up the stock, trying to stay alive here. Some guy, one game away from claiming our championship between Region 7 and 8. And Coney, it's just some guy applying pressure, but if you're Greninja as Sonic, you've got to be able to escape those combo opportunities and break those up.
Just after watching these, has some guy lost a game since Ventus Will early on in the tournament? I don't know if he has. I think he's just worked through his opponent bit by bit, and Greninja just has to find some. I don't know. It's an answer to a question that has not been figured out just yet. Some guy gets the dash attack, cannot get the follow through, but Greninja's still at a big disadvantage. But let's keep in mind all the damage that some guy is doing to himself. He's already at 75. If things go like normal, as they should, and this Pichu perishes at 80 or 90%, Greninja should be okay.
Yeah, Greninja really trying to hang on in here and has done a better job with the second stock of not having to face a lot of the down throw combos, but some guy one stock away from claiming the championship here. Greninja really going to have to dig deep. Some guy, and that's what we're talking about, Vicky. Some guy finally perishing at under 100%.
Using the back throw on the platform to extend closer to the blast zone right there. The lead that some guy had has just slipped away as Greninja recognizing the situation and managing to come back from that back throw. And that was fantastic. I was going to point out, too, just being able to get Town and City. Oh, so close. Great DI, though, coming from Greninja. This is an extremely close situation, but he respected some guy too much. Unfortunately, drifting way too far from the ledge and losing that stock. Some guy takes it from loser's bracket over Greninja.
And that'll do it. As Coney pointed out, some guy falling down to loser's bracket after the first match. After that, plows through the rest of the competition, doesn't lose a single game on their way to resetting the bracket and claiming our championship for a Region 7 and 8 in the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open, May 2020. And Coney, I got to start with you. What did we learn from some guy in this Pichu in this absolute display we saw this afternoon?
Pichu is like, it's like a circular saw that turns on. Like, have you ever seen in like cartoons where like a tool will turn on the ground all by itself and then it just kind of cuts all the way around the room? That's what I'm seeing from some guy here. It's like he just goes off and he's just all over the stage. You can't get away from him. Ventus Will did figure it out at one point and he actually did take the set, but ever since then, some guy just, it was his show all the way through. We know that he played Dark Pit and Bowser throughout the rest of the tournament, but not this time. Just Pichu straight all the way through. And I'm honestly kind of surprised because like you were saying earlier, Vicky, with all the fighters in this game, with all the different matchups, all the different considerations and dynamics at play, to go straight Pichu all the way through is impressive. That's a feat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And Vicky, as you pointed out, with all these different fighters, you go with someone like Pichu. It's not about just understanding Pichu's strengths, but also understanding the best way to approach all these other different fighters. And it seemed like the theme was everybody was trying to adjust to some guy, whereas some guy just stuck with their game plan throughout the rest of this tournament, the rest of this bracket, and that's how they rose to success here today.
Some guys' survivability honestly expanded beyond what Pichu's weaknesses are in general, and the fact that he was able to live beyond 160 more than 50% of the time that we saw him on stream is the reason why some guy really took advantage of the lead despite dealing that self-damage that Pichu does.
So that'll do it. Some Guy is your winner for regions 7 and 8. They will take home a downloadable code for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2, a downloadable code for the Splatoon 2 game, and a downloadable code for the ARMS game, emerging victorious from nearly 3,000 different players and resetting the bracket to come from behind and get the victory as Pichu. So that'll do it for us. A big thank you to our wonderful crew. A big thank you to Greninja, Ventus, Will, and Crunchbat for giving us some fantastic matches, as well as my other two co-casters, Vicky Kitty and Coney. Don't forget, next week, June 7th, we'll bring you the finals of Regions 5 and 6 as we continue along with the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open May 2020. From all of us here, thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next week.